She was already on my porch phone pressed to her ear, shouting at the police dispatcher before I even set down my first box. "Yes, officer, he's trespassing. He's breaking into my neighborhood." Those were the first words I heard in my new home. My moving truck was still running, half unloaded, my wife Emily inside unpacking, and yet, within minutes of stepping onto my own property, I was being accused of a crime in front of strangers and flashing red lights. I froze, not from guilt, but from the sheer absurdity of it. I'd closed on this lake cabin just 3 days earlier. Fresh paperwork from the county clerk was still folded in my jacket. But this woman, later I'd learn her name was Karen Johnson, looked me dead in the eye with the confidence of a tyrant who believed she owned the entire shoreline. She waved a crumpled printout in my face, bold letters screaming, "Immediate eviction." No letterhead, no stamp, nothing official. Just her smug voice hissing, "This is an HOA property. You need to leave before the cops drag you out." I told her calmly, "Ma'am, this is my property." She smiled like a cat cornering a mouse. "Not for long. My husband runs the HOA board. You won't last a week here." And right on cue, the first patrol car rolled up, lights painting the gravel driveway red and blue. Emily peeked nervously through the cabin window, clutching our little dog like we were under siege. 2 officers stepped out, hands hovering near their belts. "Sir, we got a report of a break-in." Karen's grin widened. She jabbed her finger at me like I was prey. "That's him. Arrest him." My chest burned, but I didn't flinch. Instead, I pulled a thick envelope from my jacket, crisp with ink and signatures. "Before you listen to her, I said you'll want to read this." The officers studied the deed, flipping through pages, seals, signatures. Karen kept shrieking, "That's fake! He printed that off the internet. He's dangerous." Emily stepped outside, her voice shaking. "Officers, that's our moving truck. We bought this cabin fair and square when one of the officers finally looked up and said, 'This document has the county clerk's seal. It's legitimate.'" Karen's mask cracked. She sputtered, No, the HOA owns this land. I would know I'm on the board." That was my chance. I leaned in just enough for the officers, the crowd, and Karen to hear. "This deed includes the lakefront lots, including yours." Her face went pale. Her phone slipped from her hand, clattering onto my deck. Neighbors whispered, doors creaked open, phones came out to record. The air buzzed with gossip. That's when a black SUV screeched to a halt, and her husband Mark, red-faced, heavyset, stormed out. "What's going on?" "Why are cops at my wife's house?" He puffed out his chest, waved an HOA charter like a weapon. "This is the HOA agreement. Everyone here answers to me. That includes you. Pack your truck and get off this land or I'll fine you into the ground." The neighbors murmured, some laughing, some gasping. I didn't back down. I unfolded the deed completely. Seal glinting in the sun. You think this HOA charter trumps county property law because it doesn't. And if you'd bothered to read your lease, you'd know this land already has an owner. That was the first round. And it was just the beginning. Over the next week, envelopes piled up in my mailbox, HOA violation notices, each more ridiculous than the last. Your lawn isn't trimmed. Unauthorized moving truck overnight. Improper paint color on cabin shutters. Every day, another fine. It was harassment, plain and simple. Emily sat on the porch crying one night, clutching Buddy. Maybe we should sell David. Maybe this was a mistake. Her words cut deeper than Karen's insults. For a moment, I started to believe them. I asked myself, had I really done something wrong? Was I foolish to buy this place knowing there was an HOA hovering nearby? Maybe I should just pack up, swallow my pride, and leave. No lake view was worth seeing my wife lose sleep or watching her flinch every time the mailman pulled up. But then I remembered what Karen hadn't known. That deed in my pocket wasn't just for one little cabin. It was for the entire estate, the entire strip of lakefront the HOA had been leasing for decades. I dug into my files, and there it was, clear as day. The HOA didn't own this land. They were tenants. And now, whether they liked it or not, I was their landlord. A neighbor named George, a retired attorney, confirmed it. He even handed me a dusty copy of the lease agreement the HOA had signed years ago. "They've bullied people here for decades," he muttered, "but you, son, you've got the trump card. Use it." That night I sat at the kitchen table surrounded by papers, my chest-tight hands shaking not from fear anymore, but from resolve. I was done being the new guy who kept his head down. Karen wanted to fight fine. I was ready to finish it. A week later, the HOA called a special meeting at the clubhouse. Every resident showed up. Karen sat in front, chin high, Mark beside her with a stack of binders. Phones were out, cameras rolling. The whole neighborhood wanted blood. Karen opened with her usual venom. "This intruder doesn't belong here. The HOA will evict him tonight." She slammed her palm on the table as if declaring law. Mark chimed in, waving the charter. "We set the rules. We control the land. That includes him." I let them rant. Then I stood slow and deliberate, carrying my own stack of papers. My voice shook for a second, but steadied as I laid the deed flat on the table. "You want rules? Fine. But rules don't erase law, and the law says this land, every inch of this lakefront, belongs to me." Gasps echoed across the room. I held up the lease agreement for all to see. "For decades, your HOA has been renting this property from the former owner. Well, that owner sold it. To me. Which makes me your landlord. Every notice you've sent me, every threat you've made, it's smoke and mirrors. You don't own this neighborhood. You're tenants. And you've been calling the cops on the guy who cashes your rent checks." The room erupted. Some neighbors laughed outright. Others whispered furiously. Karen's face twisted in disbelief. She lunged forward, shrieking, "This is fraud! This is harassment! He forged it." Mark tried to wave his charter again, but the words died in his throat when another board member stood up and said, "If what he's showing is true, we've been lied to. We need new leadership." Karen collapsed back into her chair face, white as chalk, hands trembling. Mark muttered, "This isn't over," but the crowd wasn't with them anymore. They were with me. And in that moment, Karen Johnson, the woman who tried to have me arrested on my first day home, lost her throne. I didn't need to celebrate. I didn't need a victory lap. Watching her empire of paper fines and empty threats crumble in front of the very neighbors she had ruled was enough. And if there's one thing I learned from it all, it's this: bullies only win until someone stands up with the truth.